BMW X2 2018 Review, Road Test, Impressions, Price, Specs. With the introduction of the new X3 at the tail end of 2017, we now have this new X2 and there's a flagship X7 due in December. That means that by this time next year there will be a whopping 7 X models in BMW showrooms. It is enough to give traditional stalwarts such as the 3 Series and 5 Series something of a persecution complex. Probably rightly so too. With the car-buying public's appetite for all things crossover-related seemingly insatiable, BMW is sitting very pretty indeed, boasting one of the largest ranges of any premium manufacturer alongside its usual models. And the latest is this X2. More of a pumped-up hatchback than a serious off-roader, the X2 is best placed alongside the likes of the Mercedes GLA or the Alfa Romeo Stelvio. That is good news for those who might want a set of wheels that is chunkier than a hatchback but with less of a 4x4 look, and probably not so good news for anyone wanting off-roading ability. Strictly speaking, BMW claims that the X2 has the same amount of go-anywhere ability as the smaller X1, but given that both are about as likely as a pair of stilettos to go off-road, that is probably no great loss. Also, we rather like the X2's hunkered down feel and road stance, which looks far better in the metal than it does in pictures, especially with the low and wide front grille. The only minor sticking point in terms of its design is the addition of BMW's blue and white roundel badge on the C-pillars between the rear door and tailgate. BMW points to the old CSL Coupe from the 1970s, which also had this design feature, but for us it looks and feels like overkill. Together with those on the front and rear, it means there are 4 full-size badges on the car's exterior, just in case you weren't sure which company it came from. Initially, just one version of the X2 will be available in this xDrive 20D form. That means owners get a 190 bhp 2.0-liter turbo diesel engine with 4-wheel drive capable of the 0 to 60 miles per hour sprint in 7.7 seconds and onto a 137 miles per hour top speed with a 60.1 miles per gallon average fuel economy and 124 km emissions. 18D. Soon after, a lesser 18D turbo diesel will also join the range with 150 bhp. Available in both 2- and 4-wheel drive forms, the former identifiable by the moniker S-Drive, as well as in 192 bhp 2.0-liter petrol and 2-wheel drive form only, and, very temptingly, some £3 500 less than the 20D. Despite that, though, BMW still expects the 20D to be the best seller. On the road, the 20D is as suitably refined as you might expect from BMW. The turbo diesel is a little vocal from outside but well insulated from those inside the cabin, and it proves very smooth on the road, especially when combined with its standard fit 8-speed automatic gearbox, which is a great match. The stop-start system proves very rapid when the engine is warmed through too. That the X2 proves far more of a driver's car than the likes of the X1 or X3. The lower set driver's position, sharp steering and the lack of body roll through corners give you far more confidence than you would get in a taller SUV. That said, even on the 19-inch wheels the ride is still quite firm, and we wouldn't mind a little more comfort for a car that's likely to be driven by a wide reach of the driving public rather than just enthusiasts. It would certainly make us think twice about going for the optional larger 20 inches wheels too. In fact, the overall on-road stance of the X2 feels exactly how the car is. It is sharper and more direct than an SUV, but it probably doesn't have quite the same control and involvement of a smaller hatchback. In terms of how it drives and feels, the X2 sits in a narrow niche between the X1 and X3, but BMW realizes that with its X2 sales expectations lower than both. Of course, BMW will be happy as long as a customer buys any of their cars over a rival. This X2 simply slots into that gap. Not that it is perfect, mind you. While the driving position itself is good, the rim of the steering wheel is almost uncomfortably thick and the dials are right at the front of the binnacle rather than being slightly sunken as usual, which takes quite a bit of acclimatization. Also, while the materials, build quality and mix of textures throughout the cabin certainly couldn't be faulted, the stitching across the dashboard was noticeably wonky. The iDrive system still works impeccably well and is very intuitive to use even on the move, while there is also a good amount of leg and headroom for adults in both the front and rear seats. Ultimately, with the continued appetite for anything remotely crossover-related, what initially looks like a narrow niche between the existing X1 and X3 could end up being an almost default purchase for some before a refreshed 1 Series and 2 Series arrive at BMW showrooms. Proof as ever is in the driving, and the X2 does drive very differently to its nearest X models, which is all that many customers will need to hear or to know. And with a total of 7 X models on sale by the end of this year, for BMW